Now, at the United Nations, Ugandan Foreign Minister Sam Kutesa was elected president of the General Assembly on Wednesday. And now, despite concerns among rights advocates, Western governments and UN officials about his country's recently adopted anti-gay legislation, Secretary General Ban Ki-moon has called on Uganda to repeal a law imposing harsh penalties for homosexuality, warning it could fuel prejudice and encourage violence against lesbian, gay, bisexual and transgender people. After his election, Kutesa was asked by reporters about his position on gays, and he suggested they should keep their sexual preferences private.
Well, as long as they respect the privacy, their right to privacy, I have no problem with it at all.
Well, now for more on Sam Kutesa's election as president of the UN General Assembly, VOA's UN correspondent Margaret Besheer joins us live from New York at the UN. Hello, Margaret.
Hi, Vincent.
Now, Mr. Kutesa is a man who's surrounded by more controversies than just the country he represents. How did he get to be elected?
Well, elected is sort of a big word for it. In the General Assembly, they choose a president each year. The president's chosen by regional groups. So this year was Africa's turn. So basically, the African countries chose Mr. Kutesa, and they put him forward. And the other countries don't really contest the choice. As long as the regional group is happy with it, then the other countries go along with it. So nobody actually cast a ballot for him yesterday. He was proclaimed by acclamation, they call it, and they just basically applauded for him. And that was the end of it.
Now, as a man himself, is a person who is embroiled in some other controversies back home. He's been connected to corruption and other issues, isn't he?
Well, he's certainly been a lightning rod around here, and he faced some harsh questioning in his first press conference with reporters yesterday on the homosexuality law and also on the corruption issues. You heard the clip. He also added later that he said he's not homophobic, and he said when asked whether he supported the anti-homosexuality laws, said it's of no consequence whether he supports it or not, but it is of consequence because he's been basically the international spokesperson supporting this law for Mr. Museveni and his government in the wake of February's legislation, because the government came under such criticism and he was defending it. On the corruption charges, he said that he's never been charged with anything, which is true, but the fact of the matter is no Ugandan high official has ever been charged with corruption. And Mr. Museveni's Mr. Museveni's son, President Museveni's son, is actually married to Mr. Kutesa's daughter, so he's very close to Museveni. Some people say that makes him rather untouchable, but he was censured by the parliament in 1999 for some business dealings of his. And another issue has arisen that he has a company called Entebbe Handling Services, which has contracts with the United Nations in some of their peacekeeping missions. It does luggage and cargo handling at airports. So he said yesterday that he is going to take a leave of absence from his businesses so there wouldn't be a conflict of interest. But, you know, how do we really know that what that means? Does it mean his wife is going to be running the business for a year? What does it really mean? So it's very hard to find out if he's really recusing himself from that.
Yeah, very interesting development. Now, in the coming months, once it's confirmed, what really is the significance of Uganda being the president of the UN General Assembly?
Well, look, the UN General Assembly is the gathering of 193 nations. It's the world stage. The resolutions that they adopt are not binding, legally binding like the ones in the Security Council, but the idea of the 193 nations gives the body moral authority. So if you have someone with sort of a shadow, a cloud over him, who's supposed to be sort of the head of this, body, it's a little awkward. But he said he's going to focus his agenda on development and solving the world's problems. So we'll see what happens. Look, he's not the first president of the General Assembly who's been controversial, I'll tell you that. So we'll see what happens. But some people say Africa has a lot of better candidates, and they could have done better than choosing Mr. Kutesa. But time will tell.
There we have him. We'll watch and keep listening. Thanks a lot, Margaret.
Sure, Vincent.
Well, VOA's Margaret Besheer reporting live from the UN in New York. Now, Minister Kutesa is scheduled to travel to Washington Thursday for a meeting with U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry.